Welcome to Greek for a Week. I'm glad that you are looking at this week's video, and this week we are wrapping up the paragraph that we have been discussing for quite some time. The paragraph is verses 17 through 21 of chapter 1, and we are looking at verses 20 and 21 here. So I want to, again, translate as we always do, but I also want to walk through some things that kind of help us understand how verses 20 and 21 relate to verse 19. Because you recall at the end of verse 19, we had the word Christou, Christ in the genitive case. And so I think we're going to see how that relates to a number of participles moving forward. So let's go ahead and translate here in verse 20. Who was foreknown before the foundation of the world, but has appeared in these last times for the sake of you, who through him are believers in God, the one who raised him from the dead and gave to him glory, so that your faith and hope to be in him. So if we look at, a couple of things to help us relate back to verse 19. So that would be this first participle here. It's a perfect passive participle, masculine, singular, a genitive of prognosko. And it's attributing a quality back to Jesus in the previous verse. So this would be considered an attributive participle. So it's Christ who was foreknown. And then, of course, when did that take place? There's our preposition there, the katabales. Okay, that's temporal, so before the foundation of the world. And then we also have another attributive participle, the phanerophentos. So this aorist passive participle, masculine genitive, singular of phanerao. Also, again, an attributive participle, attributing a quality to Jesus, again, from the previous verse. So these two participles here in verse 20, foreknown and has appeared, both of them refer back to Christou in verse 19. Then you have another temporal clause, the epieskatu, okay, the epieskatu, and then, of course, you have also the ton chronon, that is temporal. Dubis, Mark Dubis, who writes the First Peter commentary in the Baylor Handbook series, states the preposition epi here, followed by the genitive, describes time within which an event or a condition takes place. And so that's exactly what's happened. So we look at verse 21, and we continue to move forward. Now we're going to see, in a sense, what modifies humas. Okay, so we figured out these two participles here go back to verse 19. Now basically what goes back to humas? Well, you have the tous pistus, an adjective that stands, if you will, in apposition to the humas in verse 20. So remember, it's Jesus that was foreknown before the foundation of the world, and then he's appeared in these last times, what? For the sake of you. Now the you is who through him you are believers. So the believers here go back to you. In other words, you are believers. The through him here would be the means by which you are believers. And then the eis theon, here's another prepositional phrase, probably the object of the belief, that is, you are believers. You could say believers in what, and that would be in God. Then you have a couple more participles. Now you have a tan erganta. that participle as well as the time will continue, and it will also modify your danta. So both of those participles are attributive participles, attributing the quality back to God. So God is the one who raised, and God is the one who gave. Then you have the result clause, hoste, moving forward here. And some are suggesting that that is a consequence of God's actions. The consequence is that because God has raised him and given him glory, that being Christ, it therefore is a consequence or a result in the faith, which is the tain piston, kai, elpida, faith and hope, then are directed toward God. So it makes that possible for you, okay, there's the humas, for the believers to have then faith and hope in God. Now your A and I here, here's your last infinitive, present active infinitive. It's an infinitive of Amy. Kind of difficult to translate. It's so that your faith and hope to be in him. You could say are to be in him. So it just makes it a bit awkward there to translate that. But I think the point being is what it is that we place toward God, and that again is our faith and our hope. Again, really cool set of verses here, 20 and 21. So next week we're going to diagram verses 17 through 21. And hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening. See ya.